Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's live with Mega Pamuelti. My name is Pierre Frederick Lucent. Tonight, we're talking about one of the most important foundations in real estate, the components of real estate. If you want to become a real estate agent, an investor, a homeowner, or simply understand property ownership better, you must understand these three major components: land, permanent structures, rights in real estate. And tonight, we're going deep into the subject, include air rights, mineral rights, riparian rights, littoral rights, alluvion, equation, erosion, alluvion, and many more important terms that every serious real estate professional should know. So stay until the end because this information can completely change the way you understand property ownership. And again, my name is Pierre Friedley Florissant with Mega Bam Wealthy. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most important component in real estate. The three components, we're going to talk about them. Yes, tonight we're talking about one of the most important foundation in real estate. They are first land, permanent structures, and the legal rights of ownership. So if you want to become a real estate agent, an investor, a homeowner, or simply understand property ownership better, you must understand these three major components: land, permanent structures, rights in real estate. And tonight, we are going deep into those subjects, including air rights. We're going to talk about mineral rights, riparian rights, littoral rights, accretion, erosion, evolution, and many more important terms that every serious real estate professional should know. So stay until the end, share the life, because this information can completely change your life or change somebody else's life. So share the light, please. Okay, now let's let's dive in. What is real estate? What is real estate? First, let's define real estate. Real estate is not just a house. Real estate is the land, everything permanently attached to the land, and the legal rights associated with ownership. Many people confuse real estate with real property. Is the difference? Real estate means the physical property itself. Real property means the real estate plus the legal rights of ownership. That distinction is very important for exam and for real-world real estate practice. So let's talk about land. Land, the first component of real estate, land. Land is the foundation of all real estate. Land includes the surface, soil, rocks, trees, water, minerals, and even the space above and below the ground. Let's talk about physical characteristic of land. All right. So now we are talking about land, the first component of real estate. So let's remind land includes the surface, the soil, rocks, trees, water, minerals, and even the space above and below the ground. Right? So let's talk about the physical characteristic of the land. Land has unique physical characteristics. The first one is immobility. Land cannot be moved. Yeah. A house can be theoretically be relocated, but the land itself stays in one location forever. Second, indestructibility. Land is considered indestructible. Buildings can burn down, structures can collapse, but the land itself remains. Third, uniqueness. No two parcels of land are exactly alike. Even neighboring lots differ in shape, elevation, location, access, or value. So now let's talk about economics characteristic of land. First one is scarcity. There is a limited amount of land. That's one reason real estate can become valuable. Second, improvements. Land can be improved by roads, utilities, drainage, sidewalks, building, and landscaping. And third, permanence of investments. When government or business builds like highways, schools, train stations, shopping center, property values nearby may increase. And fourth, area preference. Location affects value. This is why people say location, location, location. So now we saw all the characteristic economics of the land. Yes, let's remind it. We talk about, first of all, we talk about the physical characteristic of the land. Let's remember, land has unique physical characteristic. First of all, immobility. Land cannot be moved. A house can theoretically be relocated, but the land itself stays in one location. Second, indestructibility. Land is considered indestructible. Buildings can burn down, structures can collapse, but the land itself remains. And the third, uniqueness. No two parcels of land are exactly alike. So even the borrowing lot differ in shape, elevation, location, access, or value. So after that, we saw the aspect economics characteristic of land. The first one was scarcity. Scarcity is like there is a limited amount of land. That's why one reason real estate can become more valuable because there is not enough land. All right. Always want more land. And second, in improvement, land can be improved by roads, utilities, drainage, sidewalks, building, and landscaping. Right. And third, the permanence of investment. So when government or business build highways, schools, train station, or shopping center, property values may increase. And fourth, area preference. So location affect value. So let's talk about now the surface right, include like air rights and subsurface right. The owner controls the surface of the land. That means they can build on it, farm it, plant a garden on it, or use it in accordance with local laws and regulation. So the owner has the right to construct buildings on the land, use it for agricultural purposes, develop gardens or landscaping, and utilize the property in any lawful manner permitted by local zoning and land use regulation. Now let's talk about air rights. Air rights. Air rights refer to the space above the land. Many people think they only they only own the ground, but ownership traditionally extends upward into the airspace above the property, subject to government regulation and aviation laws. Example, building higher. In a city, a property owner may have the right to build additional floors on a building if zoning laws allow it. For example, a five-story building may unused development right. A neighboring developer may purchase those air rights to build a taller tower. Let me give you another example, like New York City. In New York City, air rights are repeatedly bought and sold. A developer might buy the unused air right from a church, a historic building, a low-rise apartment building, and use those rights to increase the height of a nearby skyscraper. A third example, like building over a railroad. Some developers construct building over railroad track, train yard, highways. The structure sit above the transportation system, making use of valuable airspace. Another example, like connecting buildings. A company may build a sky bridge, an elevated walkway between two buildings. This uses airspace above a street or other property. Another example, rooftop development. A property owner may add rooftop apartment, rooftop restaurant, rooftop event spaces, rooftop gardens if local regulation permit. Another example, like telecommunication. Owners can lease rooftop space for cell phone antennas, communication towers, was broadcasting equipment. The company is paying for the right to use their space above the property. Another example, advertising. Like a building owner may lease elevated space for billboards, digital signs, advertising displays. The value comes from visibility in the airspace above the property. And the last example, the drone in aviation discussion. Even though property owners have air rights, they do not have unlimited airspace right all the way to outer space. Aircraft and aviation are regulated by the government. This helps explain why airplanes can legally fly over private property. So now let's talk about subsurface rights. Subsurface rights are the rights a property owner has what lies beneath the surface on the land. This right may include minerals, oil, natural gas, groundwater, rocks, sand, gravel, and other natural resources. Example, like oil. Imagine you own a large piece of land in Texas, right? Years later, an energy company discovers oil beneath your property. If you also own the mineral rights, you may lease the extraction rights, receive monthly payments, or earn a percentage of the oil produced. In some cases, the oil beneath the land is worth more than the land itself. Let me give you another example, like natural gas. Many landowners lease the natural gas right beneath their property. Energy companies pay for the right to drill and extract the gas. The landowner may receive royalty payment for many years. Again, my name is Pierre Frederick Florissant. Remember, we talk about land, we are talking about land, permanent structures, and legal rights of ownership. We were talking about actually land beneath the land, beneath a property. So there might be minerals, there might be good things, oil, like we saw already, so gas, like we already saw, minerals, like mineral like gold. They might be have gold, silver, copper, iron, limestone, phosphate, and other valuable minerals. If the mineral rights are included with the property, they can significantly increase its value. Another example, let's say sand and gravel. A property may contain large deposits of sand and gravel. So construction companies often pay to remove these materials for use in concrete asphalts, wood construction, and building foundation. Another example, like groundwater. In some areas, groundwater is extremely valuable. Property owners may use underground water for farming, irrigation, livestock, or supplying water to communities. Some people believe they are only buying the land they can see. However, in real estate, what lies beneath the ground can sometimes be worth far more than the property itself. Like a piece of land worth like $100,000 on the surface may contain millions of dollars in oil, gas, minerals, or other natural resources on the ground. This is why subsurface rights are among the most valuable rights in real estate. So we talk about surface right against subsurface right. One of the most interesting aspect of the real estate is that surface right and subsurface right can be owned separately. Let's repeat that again. One of the most interesting aspects of real estate is that surface rights and subsurface right can be owned separately. For example, I may sell you a piece of land, but keep the right to the oil beneath it. You own the surface, I own the minerals. This is known as several mineral rights. So mineral rights are the legal rights to explore for minerals, drill, mine, extract, and sell resources found beneath the surface. oil and gas leases. In many cases, property owners do not sell their mineral rights. Instead, they lease them to energy company. This is called an oil and gas lease. The company pays for the right to extract resources while the property owner receives royalty payments. When a real estate professional is selling property, it is important to determine, are the mineral rights included? Have they already been sold? Does another company have drilling rights? A buyer may purchase the land but not own the valuable resources beneath it. Let's talk about the water right. In water right, we got riparian right. Riparian right apply to property next to rivers, streams, flowing waters. Let's repeat it again. We're talking about water right. Yes, water right. Water right. Let's talk about water right. The first one we got riparian right. The riparian right apply to properties next to rivers, streams, flowing water. And then we got littoral right. Littoral right apply to properties bordering lakes, oceans, seas. Now let's talk about land changes. That's very important. Those terms you're gonna find them in an exam. They are very important. So pay attention. Pay attention to those words. They are very, very important for the exam. Let's talk about like natural changes to land. They are very important. Like I said, the first one is accretion. Accretion is the gradual addition of land caused by water depositing soil. Accretion. Example, a river slowly deposits dirt onto a property over many years. The term is accretion. Accretion is the gradual addition of land caused by water depositing soil. So, over many years, the river slowly deposits dirt onto a property. This is accretion. The second term is alluvion. Alluvion is the actual soil or sediment deposited by the water. So, accretion is the process, alluvion is the material deposited. There's another one called reliction. Reliction happens when water permanently recedes, exposing more land. Example, a lake shrinks over time and more shoreline become visible. And then we got erosion. Erosion is the gradual loss of land caused by water or wind. Another term we have avulsion. What is it? Avulsion is a sudden and violent loss of land. Right? Avulsion is the sudden and violent loss of land. Example, like a hurricane suddenly changes the course of a river. Now let's talk about the government right on land. Even if you own land, the government still has certain powers. Real estate students often remember the government four powers with the acronym PIT. P for police power, E for eminent domain, T for taxation, and E for exchange. Let's remind again. Real estate students they often remember the government's four powers with the acronym PIT. P for police power, E for eminent domain, T for taxation, and E for exchange. SG. They are the four major powers. What is police power? The government can regulate land use through zoning, building codes, environmental laws. Eminent domain, E, eminent domain. The government can take private property for public use with compensation. Example can give like the area Barclays Center in New York, this area. So those people were compensated by the government. So they exert the eminent domain, they take private property and they give them compensation. All people were living in this area in Brooklyn. Now we got Barclay Centers over there. So they took that private land, the private properties over there, and then now they made the Barclay Center. Yes. So that's what they can do. Eminent domain. By using eminent domain. So the government can take private property for public use with compensation. Yes, they got to pay you compensation, a fair compensation. You got to receive that money. And then by taxation, property owners must pay property taxes. Yes. In a state, what is it? If they say estate or estate, if someone dies, that's very important. If someone dies without heirs and no valid will, ownership can revert to the state. That's very important. Estate is the transfer of property to the state when a person dies without a will and without legal heirs. That's what happened. Estate. That's the word. It's happened when somebody died without leaving a will, without knowing any heirs. So if you own a property and no children, no will, and then that property gonna go to the state. That's gonna happen like this. So if someone dies without heirs and no valid will, so the ownership revert to the state. So estate is the transfer of property to the state when a person dies without a will and without legal heirs. Now that we discuss the land itself, the valuable resources below it, and the government rights in land, let's move to the second major component of real estate: permanent structures, chattels, and improvement. Just give me 20 seconds. Let me drink some water. So I'll come back to you. So now we're going to talk about the second component. We already saw the first component. We spent the first 30 minutes talking about the first component, the land itself. So now we're going to talk about the second component. Give me a few seconds. I'm going to drink some water. Let's listen some music a little bit.
Real estate is land, permanent structure, and the land you have as an owner. All three make it real estate, and understanding this is the foundation for everything else in this course.
Yes, share the life, and you can support me by sending stars every year money to make more content.
You have as an
owner,
all three make it real estate, and understanding this is the foundation for everything else.
We're learning the foundation of real estate. We were talking about land. Now we're gonna talk about the second component of real estate. We're gonna talk about permanent structure.
All three make it real estate, and understanding this is the foundation for everything else in this course. Real estate is land, permanent structure, and
If you want to share the life, if you know somebody now
all three make it real estate, and understanding this is the foundation for everything else in this course.
Yeah, tell him about life. Tell him about Mega Family. We give classes. We give classes. Yes. We talk about real estate every week. So today we are talking about land. We talk about land structures, and we're going to talk about permanent structures right now. We're going to talk about legal rights. So today we were talking about three components of real estate: permanent structures and the legal rights of owners. So anybody who wants to come in English,
is the foundation for
everything
else in
you.
This course. Real estate is land, permanent structure, and the land you have.
So now let's go back to the second component of real estate. So the second component of real estate is what we call the permanent structures. What are permanent structures? Permanent structures, they are man-made additions permanently attached to land. Right? So permanent structures are anything permanently attached to the land. We already spoke about land. We talk about a lot. We spent 30 minutes talking about land. Now we're gonna talk about the second component of real estate. The second one, they are permanent structures. Permanent structures are man-made additions permanently attached to the land. Examples like houses, garages, driveways, fences, buildings, swimming pools are permanently attached to the land. They are real estate, they are part of real estate. Anything permanently attached to the land are part of real estate. They are real estate. You can count them as real estate. Okay? So the buildings, the apartment, the co-op, the condominiums, the garages, the fence, the driveway, a road that you take to go home, if it's a private road, is part of the real estate because they are attached to the land and permanently attached to the land. They are fixed to the land. So they are part of real estate. One of the most important concept in real estate is fixtures. What is fixtures? A fixtures begin as personal property, but becomes real property once permanently attached. Example, built-in cabinets, central air system, light fixtures, toilets, building appliances. So they use a test to determine fixtures. That test called Maria test. Yes, Maria test. That's the test they use to determine fixtures. So they want to know the fixtures, if it's fixture, if this fixture is permanent structure, it's permanent structure, so it stay with the land, it stay with the property, it stays when you sell the property, the fixtures stays. So that's very important to know. So to determine if it's a fixture, so they made a test. The test, they call it Maria test. Maria. Maria test. So M for method of attachment. So how permanently attached it is. That's the question they ask. A for adaptation. What is customized for the property? R, relationship of parties. Who is arguing ownership? I for intention. Did the person intend permanence? And A for agreement. Was there a written agreement? So to be able to see if the picture, so they have the Maria test. So now let's talk about another term. This term is trade fixture. What is a trade fixture? A trade fixture is equipment installed by a business student. Example, barber chairs, restaurant ovens, retail shelf. Even though attached, trade fixture usually remain personal property if removed before the lease ends. Now let's talk about improvement to land. Permanent structures increase usefulness and value. Example, sidewalks, utilities, septic systems, roads, retaining walls. The word usefulness means the ability of something to be useful, practical, or beneficial. In real estate, usefulness refers to how well land or property can serve a purpose, satisfy a need, or provide value. Let's take example like a house. A house provides usefulness because people can live in it. Commercial property, a store has usefulness because a business can operate there. Another example, a land near highway may have greater usefulness for business because customers can access it easily. For example, when we say improvements, we talk about like the usefulness of the land. It means roads, utilities, building, plumbing, electricity, sidewalks make the land more functional and valuable. So usefulness means how helpful of or functional a property is for people needs. Or we can say the more useful a property is, the more value it may have. So, for example, a vacant piece of land may have limited usefulness, but once you add water, electricity, woods, and buildings, the usefulness and value of the land increase. So now let's talk about another term. The other term is chattel. We're going to talk about another term, chattel. Chattel, CHATTL. Let's write it down for you. Chattel. Let's see. We're going to talk about chattel now. Okay, chattel. What is chattel? Chattel means personal property. Personal property. Chattel means personal property. Remember this. Chattel, personal property. It's not real property. Chattel is not real property. Chattel is personal property. Okay? So, in simple words, if you can move something, and not permanently attached to the land, it's personal property. Things that can't move are real property. But if it can't move, it's not attached to the land. What is it? It's personal property. All right. So exactly that's what it is. So let's give some example of chattel. Couches, it can move. It's not attached to the land. Beds, televisions, table, chairs, lamps, rugs, portable appliance, patio furniture, portable grills, movable sheds, curtain not permanently installed, artwork decoration, these items are not considered part of real estate. Let's remember chattel, CHATTEL, are real property. They're not part of real estate. Real property, remember the definition at the beginning. Real property is the physical, the house, the building is physical, plus the right, we're going to see it in a few minutes, that you have. That's real property. Real property, you cannot move them. They're not movable. So when you sell house, those permanent structures, they stay with the new buyer. All right? Personal property, they call them chattel. 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 That's the name of it. Chattel. They are not real estate. They because they can be moved. They're not permanently attached to the land. Remember those examples. Couches. Your couch as a personal property. You can take it with you. If you sell the house, you take it with you. It's a chattel. Your bed, you take your bed with you. Your television, if it's not mount, your television, you go with it. Your table, your chairs, your lamp, your rugs, appliances, patio furniture, portable grills, movable sheds, curtains, decoration, artwork, those items are not considered part of the real estate. Real property includes lands, permanent structures, pictures that we just saw, a right attached to ownership. Chattel includes movable personal belongings. Imagine a buyer walks through a house and sees a refrigerator, a wall mount TV, a luxury chandelier, and outdoor furniture. The question becomes what stays with the property and what leaves with the seller. That depends on whether the item is a fixture or a chattel. An important thing to understand is this chattel can transform into real property. Example, a brand new light fixture in a box is chattel, but once permanently installed into the ceiling, it may become a fixture. More example of chattel. Like for example, portable microwave, freestanding freezer, removable window, AC, like movable shed, portable generator. Let, for example, a fixture is like a built-in oven, like central air conditioning, like a built-in shelves, permanently installed security system, a attached garage, door opener. Those are fixture. So they consider as real property. Why chattels matters? Why chattel matters in real estate? Why that's important? And then is because chattels it affect property value. It affects property value. It affects negotiation. It affects financing, taxes, and contracts. Lenders usually finance real property, not personal property. Sometimes chattel is transferred separately using a bill of sale. Bill of sale. What is it? For example, a seller may sell furniture, appliances, or equipment separately from the house. That's why we talk about bill of sale. So the buyer came and saw nice, beautiful artwork hanging on the wall. So when they're gonna buy the house at the closing, and they use the bill of sale because they include this artwork, the painting, yes, in the sale. So bill of sale. So it's transferred separately using bill of sale. So they pay for equipment, they pay for appliance, they pay separately, and then they pay for the house and they pay for the other stuff. So when they do that, they use what we call bill of sale. Bill of sale. That's what it is. Bill of sale. Here's another advanced term. We call chattel real. Chattel real. This refers to personal property connected to real estate through a lease. Example, like a tenant renting an apartment. If you rent an apartment, you don't own the building. But as a leasehold, you have a leasehold interest. So that leasehold interest is called chattel real. You see? Chattel real. So the lease you have in your hand is called chattel rail. So that's an advanced term in real estate. Now let's talk about trade fixtures and chattel. Remember, like we said before, we said before, fixture fixture are permanently attached to the land, but the trade fixture we said that equipment for business. For example, you own a big apartment building, and then in this apartment building there's a restaurant, and this restaurant, the owner of the restaurant installed equipment. They are business equipment. So, for example, barber chairs equipment. In this case, we rent one of our apartment to somebody. He put in restaurant, right? So in this restaurant, he put some ovens. So those are business equipment. For example, nail salon station equipment. These may look permanent, but are often trade fixtures, which can remain the tenant's personal property. So the fixture are permanently attached to the land. We already spoke about the fixture. We even talk about a list of fixture, right? For example, built-in oven fixture. Those stay, right? If you have a house, but when you are building your house, you built, you put oven. It's a built-in oven. You put central air conditioning. You put cabinets. Those are permanently attached with the house. Uh, The house attached to the land. Those are fixtures. Those are permanently attached. For example, the lights. You see, wiring. Those are fixtures. The plumbing system, the electric system are fixtures. So those stay. The fences, they are permanent structures. Those stays. They cannot be removed. The cabinet, you cannot put the cabinet and you wanna go with them, you remove them. You cannot do that. They are fixtures. They are permanently installed. For example, if you install security system, they are fixtures. Like for garage, you have the door opener. They are fixtures, right? So they are different from trade fixtures. Trade fixtures are really different because those trade fixtures they are for business owner. So business equipment like barber chair, restaurant ovens, nail salon station, Commercial shelving, they may look permanent, but are often trade fixtures. So they are personal property. So many real estate disputes are penned because buyers assume certain items are included. Example, example dispute like mount television, expensive mirror, refrigerators, custom curtains, outdoor kitchens, generator. That's why contract should clearly state what stays and what goes. Remember this rule. Real property is immovable. Chattel is movable. And always ask, wow, was the item intended to become permanent? No, now let's go deeper into structures because this is where many people get confused in real estate. Now we're going to talk about permanent structures and non-permanent structures. In real estate, not every structure is automatically considered real property. Some structures are permanent, while others are temporary or movable. And this difference matters legally, financially, and during a sale. What makes a structure permanent? A structure is permanent is something attached to the land in a way that shows is it intended to stay there long term. Example include houses, apartment buildings, garages, driveways, patio, swimming pools, retaining walls, decks permanently bolt to the home, underground plumbing, electrical system, septic tank, built-in fireplace, elevator, central AC system. These structures usually become part of real estate itself. What are non-permanent structures? Non-permanent structures are structures that are movable, temporary, or not permanently attached to the land. Example, portable shed, storage tents, temporary carports, inflatable pools, camping cabins, movable tiny homes, trailers not permanently attached, portable gazebos, removable fences, construction trailers, food truck, mobile stages. They are usually considered personal property, not real property. Give me a second, let me do some more. And again, my name is Pierre Fleury, and I'm with Manga Pamwiti. Today we were talking about land, permanent structures, and legal rights. Now we were talking about the permanent structures. We are about the second component. We were talking about the shed. But there's a question. Is a real estate will question? Let me give you an example. Let's say we got two sheds. The number one shed, it is loosely on the ground, no foundation. All right. This one can be moved with a truck. That shed is usually personal property because it can be moved. There's no foundation, and we said it's loosely on the ground. In the second shed, it has a concrete foundation, electrical wiring, plumbing, and permanent anchoring. That shed may become a real problem. So attachment and intention matter a lot. Let me give you another example. For example, a mobile home may begin as personal property, and then once permanently attached to land, connected to utilities, and legally converted, it may become real property. We got another term, accessory structures. Some structures are secondary to the main building. These are called accessory structures. Example, detached garages, workshop, greenhouses, guest houses, barns, sheds. Some accessory structures are permanent, some are temporary. An improvement increases the value and or the usefulness of land permanently. Example, sidewalks, underground drainage, paved driveways, retaining walls, permanent landscaping, street lighting. But temporary addition usually do not become permanent improvement. Let's repeat. An improvement increases the value or the usefulness of land permanently. Example, sidewalks, underground drainage, paved driveways, retaining walls, permanent landscaping, street lighting. But temporary addition usually do not become permanent improvement. Example, holiday decoration, removable warning, portable basketball hoops, patio furniture, temporary storage container. All right. So they not a permanent improvement. They are temporary improvement. Like or the day decoration, like patio furniture. So they are not permanent. They are just for the situation, the holiday. Now, haircuts determine if something if if something is real property. Haircut determine if something is real property. Courts often ask several questions. The first question: how is attached? Can it be can it be removed easily? The second question: what is meant to stay? What was the owner's intention? Third, would removable damage a property? If removing it damages the building, it is likely real property. And fourth, what is customized for the property? Like built specially for the property. Some items create arguments during sales. Example, refrigerators, chandeliers, Walmart TVs, security cameras, satellite dishes, generators, solar panels. That's why purchase contract often specifies exactly what stays and what goes. Trees, crops, and natural objects. Let's talk about trees. Trees growing naturally on land are usually real property. Crops may be real property or personal property, depending on the type. Natural growing plants like trees, grass, bushes are called fructus naturalis. These are generally real property, but fructus industrialis are, for example, corn, wheat, vegetable. They may be considered as personal property. Implements are annual crops cultivated by tenants. A tenant may sometimes keep rights to harvest crops even after leaving the property. This matters because when property is sold, buyers and sellers must know exactly what stays, what leaves, what is legally included in the sale. Many lawsuits are penned because parties disagree about fixtures, shed, appliance, or attached equipment. In real estate, ownership is not always simple. The key question is often it is permanent, attached, and intended to stay, or it is movable, temporary, or personal property. That distinction changes value, taxes, financing, insurance, and legal ownership. In real estate, understanding chattel protects buyers, sellers, landlords, tenants, and agents because in every transaction, ownership must be clearly defined. Now, let's discuss the legal rights of ownership. We're going to talk about bundle of rights. This right include right of possession. The owner has the right to occupy the property. The second one is right of control. The owner control how the property is used. The third one, right of enjoyment. The owner has the right to enjoy the property without unreasonable interference. And fourth, right of exclusion. The owner can prevent others from entering the property. And fifth, right of disposition. The owner can sell, lease, transfer, or give away the property. Right can be limited by encumbrances. Example, liens, easements, deed restriction, encroachments. What is easement? An easement gives someone the right to use another person's land for a specific purpose. Example, utility lines, shared driveways. All right. So let's talk about liens. A liens is a legal claims against property for debt. For example, mortgage liens, tax liens, mechanic liens. Mechanic liens is, for example, you hired a firm for taking care of building your house, and you didn't pay them. They put a mechanic lien on your property, so you have to pay them. That's what we call mechanic liens. Now let's talk about the leasehold and freehold estate. Leasehold estate and freehold estate. Another type of property ownership. Leasehold estate is you have possession for a limited time to a lease. All right. So let's say we have a house and then we rent somebody this house. If you rent somebody this house, this is a leasehold estate. Freehold estate is more permanent. So with freehold estate, you have the first one called fee simple absolute. The first one property right of freehold estate is called fee simple absolute. Fee simple absolute, you own the land and all the rights. You can live in it, you can rent the place, and you can leave it for your children. This is fee simple absolute. This is the first category of freehold estate. The second category is leasehold estate. Leasehold estate is different because the person has the limited time to live in the property. They have a lease, for example, a year-to-year lease or a month-to-month lease. This is different from leasehold, from freehold estate and leasehold estate. Freehold estate is more permanent and leasehold estate is temporary. In the freehold estate, we have fee simple absolute and we have life estate. Life estate, that means the person who lives in the property is not the owner. For example, a grandmother can decide to let her son live in the property. during his lifetime. But when he dies, the property goes to his children. That's what the mother decides. That called life estate. So in the free simple absolute, there's two categories. You got fee simple absolute. You own all the rights. You can do whatever with your property. And the second one, you call life estate. You don't own the property. All right? You don't own the property, but you rent the property to a lease. They got month to month that called month to month. They got year to year, right? They got lease for year to year, month to month. It is different because the person can live in the property, but the person doesn't own the property. He has a leasehold estate. And the last one we're going to talk about is co-ownership. That multiple people own the same property. Yep. When multiple people own the same property, they got the first one, tenancy in common. In tenancy in common, every person has his own part of the property. If one owner dies, his share goes to his family if he passes away. But the second one is different. He has the right of survivorship. So when somebody dies, you don't have, so the family doesn't have the share. Nope. The right of survivorship means the other owner now own your part, your share. All right. And the last one, tenancy by the entirety. This is a different one because this is when married couples, it is for married couple only. For example, the husband, they have a house together. A married couple has a house together, but the husband cannot sell the house without the wife agree with that decision. That's what it is. So tonight we were talking about land, permanent structures, and we saw the legal rights. We saw possession right, control right, enjoyment right, exclusion right, and we even talked about disposition right. We're talking about freehold estate and leasehold estate. We make the difference between freehold estate and leasehold estate. And we said freehold estate are more permanent and leasehold estate are temporary. We talk about co-ownership where multiple people own the same property. We talk about tenancy in common. We talk about joint tenancy. The joint tenancy as a right of survivorship is a feature, a special feature. So when the person, the owner, one owner dies with the right of survivorship and his share goes to the others owners. That's what it is. But tenants in common, if one owner dies, his share goes to his family. And we saw the tenancy by the entirety. This is for married couples. So if a married couple buys a house together, none of them like they need both to be able to sell a house. So the husband cannot sell by himself, and the wife can't not either. So now let's remember what we just saw. We're gonna ask some questions to see if we remember. The first question is, what is the difference between real estate and real property? Do you remember the difference between real estate and real property? We said real estate is the physical, like the house, and the real property is include the physical and then the rights. So the rights included plus the property itself, the physical that made real property. The second question, what is air right? What is air right? Air right, remember, surface above the ground, surface above your property. What is accretion? Remember that? Addition, addition of your land. So over years, so the water brings sediment, dirt, and so that make your land becomes bigger. So remember the difference between accretion and allusion. So remember that. So accretion is the process, and alluvion exactly the sediment, the dirt. Remember what is fixture? Fixture, what is it? Remember what we said about fixture? Fixture, we talk about fixture. Fixture is permanently attached to the land, is part of real estate. But trade fixture are not part of real estate. They are personal property. They are business equipment. Trade fixture. What are riparian right? Remember riparian right? But remember, this is the water rights. Like rivers and littoral rights, seas, ocean. So That's different. Right parent right and then littoral rights. What is the meaning domain? So you remember the government give compensation using taking over private property for like personal, I mean, for other users. So they can judge that they can use it better for the population, for the government. So they exercise that right, eminent domain. They take over your property. And remember the bundle of rights. We're talking about bundle of rights. It's like a bunch of sticks. They call it bundle of right or bundle of sticks. They are possession right. We talk about control right. Control right, like for example, you can decide how to plant the garden, to renovate your kitchen. You can decide well this for your property. Enjoyment right. You decide who enter your property. You can gather a family reunion and enjoy the space without interference. And then we got exclusion, like we said, we stop people from entering your property. You let people in or you stop them to get in. And the disposition right, that's what we saw, the last one. Disposition right, you can sell, you can you can sell, you can leave it for your children. You can do whatever you want with your property. And we saw the even you own some right, so it can be limited by liens, encumbrances, and then we saw by lease exactly too. If you lease your place, so the person you lease it can use your property. So tonight we covered land, physical and economic characteristic of the land. We talk about air rights, water rights. We talk about accretion, alluvion, erosion, avulsion, fixtures, permanent structures. We talk about bundle of rights, easements, liens, and much more. This is fun, foundational knowledge for real estate agents, investors, brokers, appraisers, and property owners. So if you learn something valuable tonight, like, share, follow, right? Follow Megapam, you know. And remember, the more you understand real estate, the more powerful your decision become. So thank you, everybody, and I'll see you in the next life. Bye. Good night.